Now let's stay right there with Gordon Brown. He and Barack Obama have described the global financial crisis as needing a global solution. Speaking at a joint press conference in London, Brown agreed that banking regulations should be tightened and said no recovery can take place until they've been cleaned up. The British Prime Minister also outlined 5 points that he says G20 leaders must address in this upcoming summit.
On your first official visit to our country. So our first test is to agree tougher and more transparent supervision of banks, hedge funds and what is known as the global shadow banking system. We have both agreed there will be no sustainable recovery until the banks are cleaned up and a new regulatory system is put in place. The second test is to commit to taking the action necessary to bring about a resumption of growth, push back against the global recession and support families and businesses. The third test is to ensure by international economic cooperation and by strengthening our international economic institutions, we support growth in emerging markets and developing countries. The fourth test is to reject protectionism and kick-start global trade, and I've suggested an absolute minimum of $100 billion of trade finance that is so desperately needed. Fifth, we have an obligation to help the poorest, those most vulnerable, but least able to respond to the crisis, by meeting our Millennium Development Goals and keeping our pledges on aid. The United States is...
Now, staying at that press conference, Obama described his meeting with Brown as being productive. He said that differences between G20 nations are overstated, stressing the importance of shared common ground. Obama said there will be plans to end abuses of banking institutions, but that G20 members will not be able to agree on every single point.
The United States is committed, working alongside the United Kingdom, to doing whatever it takes to stimulate growth and demand and to ensure that a crisis like this never happens again. At home, we're moving forward aggressively on both recovery and reform. We've taken unprecedented action to create jobs and restore the flow of credit, and we've proposed a clear set of tough new 21st century rules of the road for all of our financial institutions. We are lifting ourselves out of this crisis and putting an end to the abuses that got us here. I know that the G20 nations are appropriately pursuing their own approaches, and as Gordon indicated, we're not going to agree on every point. I came here to put forward our ideas, but I also came here to listen, and not to lecture. Having said that, we must not miss an opportunity to lead, to confront a crisis that knows no borders. We have a responsibility to coordinate our actions and to focus on common ground, not on our occasional differences. If we do, I believe we can make enormous progress.
Well, it was a very busy day for Barack Obama. The American leader also visited Buckingham Palace for his much-anticipated first meeting with Queen Elizabeth. He arrived at the royal residence in London with First Lady Michelle Obama. After exchanging gifts, Queen Elizabeth and the Duke of Edinburgh received the Obamas in their private rooms. Afterwards, the British monarch held a reception for all the world leaders who are attending the G20 Summit. Now,